Hello, Deidre. How
Hey,
are
Ellen.
you? How are
Great.
you? How are you?
Doing well. Doing well.
I am in St. Martin.
Good for you.
Well,
Not as good as you.
aren't we all jealous?
I know.
I am told that we are live on Facebook now, or Facebook, YouTube, and probably any number of other social platforms through this Zoom link up. So let me just welcome everybody. I'm Mike Woolfolk. I am the anchor and managing editor of Mid Michigan Now, which is the news operation for the NBC and Fox affiliates in the Flint, Saginaw, and Bay City markets here in Michigan. I live in Metro Detroit. I'm a native Detroiter, and I commute up to the Mid-Michigan area to do the morning news and also run our content center on the dayside shift. It's quite an honor to be asked to join you. I am a proud Southern University graduate, class of '88. Came out in December that year. Graduated from the Mass Communications Department at a time when Dr. Henry Wiggins was the chairman of the department, and Dr. Hines was the dean. There were so many names, and I know many of them have passed on at this point. But it was such a wonderful experience for me to attend Southern University. I had actually transferred there from the U.S. Naval Academy of all places, and spent 3 good years there completing my degree and doing what I had a passion for, which is television news. So my career has done well, and I owe a great deal of that to Southern University. The campus there on the bluff literally changed my life as I tried to turn things around after attempting to get through the Naval Academy. Would like to just take a moment and introduce our audience to some key people here with us tonight. Allison Young is chair of the Southern Foundation Board of Trustees, and she will greet us tonight, as will Deidre Robert, who is co-chair of the Advancement Committee for the Southern Foundation, and James Brown, the other co-chair of the Advancement Committee for the Foundation. We're going to start out with some opening comments from those 3 individuals in that order, in fact, and then we will continue on with a wonderful discussion about what Southern University has meant to each of our guests tonight. You're going to meet some dynamic folks who have gone on from their time on campus, whether it was the on the Baton Rouge campus, the Shreveport campus, the New Orleans campus, Law Center, the Agriculture and Extension Center, and we're even going to talk a little bit about Southern Lab, because that's an important part of the Southern University system as well. So is Allison with us? I don't see her. I don't see a window for Allison yet.
Oh,
yeah, well, Allison's right there. You're down here. I had to find you. I'm so sorry. You're the one we're jealous of, because we saw the beach behind you. Good evening. Thanks for joining us, and the floor is yours.
All right. Thank you so much. Listen, I am excited and delighted to be a part of this kickoff of the $1 Million March for Southern University. As many of you know, or as he just stated, I am the chair of the Board of Trustees of the Foundation, and we are really excited about the work that is being done by Deidre Roberts and Reverend James Brown. With that, I'm going to, I apologize for not having a lot of remarks, but as I said earlier, I happen to be in St. Martin and just got off a boat from Anguilla. So normally I am not at a loss for words, but I will say that, although I'm not a graduate, I have been very actively involved with Southern University for over the past 10 years when I was a senior vice president at the Louisiana Blue Cross Blue Shield plan. And I have had great friendships with many Southern graduates and was extremely influenced. I'm from the South Side of Chicago, by Thomas N. Todd, the dynamic TNT. Knew him in Chicago and was always very, very impressed with Southern University, which was his first love. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Deidre Roberts. Thank you, Deidre.
Great. Thank you, Allison. And thank you, Mike, for that warm welcome to everyone. Hello, Jaguar Nation. I am, like Allison, excited and extremely delighted to join all of you tonight. I am co-chair of the Advancement Committee this year with Pastor James Brown, and we're excited about the trajectory of our institution. We're excited about what we've done and the more that is coming for us. And my why, Mike, is because in 1997, when I arrived at Southern University Law Center, I immediately knew that I was in the right place with the right people to not only nurture me as a young aspiring attorney, but since that time, since graduating in 2000, to continue to support me, to continue to enhance my professional career, to continue to be a family to me and to my family. Another large part of my why is that my youngest son will become a Jaguar in August of this year when he steps his feet on the campus of Southern University in Baton Rouge. And so just thrilled and really honored to serve in the capacity as a trustee with the foundation. The Advancement Committee is working diligently to support our institution and to get the support from our friends, our families, our alum, and just the champions for Southern University. So many people did not get to attend our great institution, but still support it, and we appreciate them, and they are part of our Jaguar family too. And so living gold and defending blue is part of my DNA as all of you. And so we encourage you to get behind us and join us in this mission of advancing the Southern University system. I'll add one more little nugget. I've had the opportunity to not only benefit from the education and the support system, but also to give back in the capacity of serving as general counsel and now as a foundation member. And so we are always looking for people to put in sweat equity as well as financial support, and just that commitment to ensuring that we are moving forward and that we are taking care of the needs of our students at the Southern University system. So welcome all of you. Thank you for having me, and go Jags.
Go Jags indeed. And I understand that Pastor Brown is actually in Baton Rouge. As our producer, Robert Harrison, told me, he is in the room. So James Brown, you have a great name behind you. You can have folks either say that you are the fantastic godfather of soul, or you can have folks say you're the outstanding sports journalist on CBS. We know for a fact, though, that you're James Brown, the pastor.
Thank you so much for the
reporter of Southern University. Welcome, sir.
And the shout out. Yes, I'm James Brown, and I feel good today. I feel so good. I didn't want to be in Houston for this kickoff. I get so excited this time of the year for the kickoff of the $1 Million March. But I'm a little jealous of our leader, Miss Allison Young. Allison, I think we need to lobby our board to maybe have the kickoff in St. Martin yesterday. I mean next year, so we can come down and hang out with you on the beach. But having said that, this is so exciting because this is the 10th year for the $1 Million March, and our annual campaign reports are fresh off the press. And we're excited about what's going to happen with this viral mail-out campaign, the viral and the direct mail fundraising campaign that's going to happen in this full-court press for the next 90 days. To say a little bit about the history of the $1 Million March, it was born in April of 2014 at a Starbucks in downtown Houston, where Al Harrell, the new CEO of the foundation, came over and was recruiting folks to give to the Southern University System Foundation. And so we pitched this idea about the $1 Million March, and we got it off the ground in 2014. And when you get your report, you can see how it has progressed from $8 million in 2014 to doubling that of $16 million in 2022. So we're excited about the advancement committee coordinating the events surrounding the $1 Million March with the leadership that Ms. Allison Young is giving, and also working closely with Ms. Deidre Roberts as co-chair of the advancement committee. So the campaign will run from June 1st to the end of August. And then we have the presentation at homecoming, and then I'm sure we'll hear about the celebration at the Value Classic on that Friday night. That's the culminating event where we honor all of our donors and captains and all of that. Just a great time. So I'm excited. Had a wonderful drive over my wife and I today. We have made a commitment annually, and so we have also placed the Southern University System Foundation and all of its units in our will, and so we will be giving 10% of our assets when we transition from this life into the life of eternity. So that's how excited we are. And so, Jaguar Nation, let's get ready for a great panel discussion. And I hope that you will be as passionate about giving back to Southern University as my wife and I are this year. Thank you, and God bless all of you.
Right back at you, Pastor Brown, and thank you for that tremendous support, not only in the past and the present, but now we know in the future as well. I will say this: I'm sure that Lewis and Courtney are wondering why this wasn't birthed at a McDonald's, but we are going to start this conversation, and I'd like to hear for my own personal edification, but mostly, of course, for our audience out there, what Southern University has meant to each of you individually, and why you feel it is so important to give back in this way. And because I cracked the joke about McDonald's, we're going to start with the Henrys. This is a dynamic team, father and son, both, as I look down my list here, graduates of Southern University. Mr. Henry Lewis, class of 71, Courtney, class of 2000. Gentlemen, welcome. Congratulations on your tremendous success over the years. Tell us all a little bit about your background, your company, and how Southern University put you in position to enjoy the success that you do.
I'm originally from Bastrop, Louisiana. My mother and father were Southern graduates. It was 6 of us, and all of us graduated from Southern. We didn't know it was another school other than Southern. I graduated in 71. I was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Army Reserve. I stayed in the Reserve 18 years, got out as a major. When I graduated from, when I got out of the training for the military, I was a transportation officer. I worked for Westinghouse Credit, the commercial and industrial finance division. My specialty was the oil and gas industry. We financed a lot of offshore crude boats, tugboats, the drilling rigs, and that was a very, very specific specialty. There wasn't many blacks when that specialty understood the business. And we did a lot of business in South Louisiana, and we lived in a different number of cities: Houston, Dallas, Atlanta, Pittsburgh. And I did very well within that industry because it was so specialized. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what I would have been without a Southern University. I wasn't a great student, but I think that Southern made me a complete student. We were able to we have 19 McDonald's restaurants, and we are in the top 1% of all franchisees worldwide for McDonald's. That means operating, if you look at all the McDonald's in the world, you take 1% of them, we are in the top 1%. So I attribute a lot of that to Southern because I never was in a position that I felt I was inferior. When I got in the corporate world, I felt that I can do anything that I wanted to do. I think the greatest achievements for us is being in that top 1%, but I think the greatest accomplishment is my son. He graduated from Southern, and he is head over heels. We wouldn't have been anywhere without him. And I think that I have a son that went to Virginia, another one went to school here in Minnesota, but I can tell you that the completeness that I see at Southern made all of us better. You know, you made the friends, the relationships you make at Southern, it's worldwide. You know, I know with my father, he got his master's at Southern, and a lot of people that he dealt with along the Perkins, Don Wade was his student. And, you know, you see a lot of things that those connections are worldwide. And I just think that it's very important for me to give back to Southern because I know what Southern did for me. And a lot of times when you look at these students at Southern, you know, I just had a grandson that got a master's degree at Georgetown. The investment you make at a Georgetown or something like that, you could do 10 students at Southern. So to me, it's very important that we, really develop the young people at Southern, give them all the opportunities. And one of the things we have to do is when the students graduate, they have to be able to give back to Southern. I think that's just more, we don't do that. I mean, when you go to Howard's, the Hamptons, it's more ingrained that they give back. And I think that's a culture that we have to instill at Southern. But I'll turn it over to my son now.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Courtney Henry. I'm a spring 2000 graduate of Southern University in accounting. I'm actually grew up here in Minnesota, moved up here when I was in the 7th grade. And, you know, in Minnesota and a lot of the Midwest, you don't have a lot of HBCUs. So I wasn't exposed to that HBCU culture until my dad started bringing us down there when I was in middle school. And once I got to Southern's campus and the Bayou Classic and saw the Battle of the Bands and the Greek shows and all that, I was hooked. You know, I could have had scholarship offers to go to a lot of different universities, a lot of predominantly white universities, but I definitely wanted to go to Southern because it was a family tradition. Like as my father stated earlier, my grandparents went to Southern, and you know, once I got to Southern, just felt the community and got the confidence that Southern gave me to feel like I could achieve anything. You know, after I graduated, I worked with an accounting firm, Deloitte & Touche, for a few years, but never felt that I was lacking any skills or any competence to do anything. And you know, after I graduated from Southern and was working, came back to the business full time, you know, we were able to go from 5 restaurants to 19, and you know, one of the largest Black-owned franchisees in the system. But I think, you know, all that was the education I got at Southern to make me more well-rounded. And I definitely, you know, feel the obligation. I have a 9 and 7-year-old, and I actually brought them this last year to homecoming in the Bayou Classic. And I think we got a little some future Jaguars on our hand. And we always want to say, you know, we want to give a certain percentage of our, you know, sales set aside in our budget to make sure that we do give back to Southern, because we all know that, you know, we see a lot of other HBCUs struggle. And if we don't give back and take care of Southern ourselves, then, you know, what are we doing as alumni?
I think it's going to be a general theme that we hear throughout the course of this conversation tonight, that when you arrive on the Southern campus, no matter which campus it is, that you never feel like you are inferior. I think that was a key point that both of you made, because I know that was my experience as well. You know, if I had been in an environment where I had felt somewhat inferior, when I came to Southern, that completely turned 180 degrees and really set me on a key course for success. I want to take one moment here to acknowledge our audience here. I want them to know that the comment section works. I understand that some of you have been experiencing some audio feedback. We've made some adjustments. We hope that the problem is corrected for you. If it is not, continue to comment and let us know. The team there in Baton Rouge will do all they can to make sure that this goes out in top quality, both video and audio. Before we get deeper into the conversation, specifically with the Henrys on their business, let me bring in Mr. Matthews, Irving Matthews, who we're so happy that you got your video problems resolved there. I was reading up on you, and you're in a business that's tied to where I am. You're in the, you sell cars. Talk about your experiences at Southern and how the university set you on your course. We need you to unmute. Irving, unmute.
That should work.
We can hear you now.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. But I'm quite proud to be a Jaguar and a graduate of Southern University. And if I must say myself, my parents were not college grads. They weren't even high school grads. But they had one objective in life, and that was that their two kids, I have a sister that graduated from Southern also, their two kids were going to be college graduates. And I often say if the Lord had taken them the day that I graduated, because I'm the youngest, they would have felt that their mission in life was complete. Southern prepared me to go out and compete in the world here. And I'll tell you, I am so proud of what I've been able to achieve utilizing the skills and so forth. I'm a graduate of the engineering school. I was graduated in a degree in electrical engineering technology. And upon graduating from Southern University, I went to work for Procter & Gamble in Long Beach, California, and spent 14 years with Procter. The thing that got me back to this warm weather was they transferred me to Chicago. And after fighting winters in Chicago for 3 years, I said, Lord, if I ever return to a warm climate, I'm not leaving. So I left Procter after 14 years and went to work for Frito-Lay, and ended up plant manager of the manufacturing operation here in Orlando. And needless to say, after about 4 years there, a round of golf led me to the automotive industry. And I was out one night practicing at the golf course and met one of the zone managers with Ford. And he said, next time I'm in town, I'd love to play around the golf. And we did. And he had a group of Ford guys. And after golf, we sat there, had a couple of drinks, and they talked me into taking an application. And kind of the rest is history. But I left Frito in 1990 and went into the automotive industry, bought my first dealership in 1991. And that was a Ford dealership here in Florida. I have grown the business. I now have 4 dealerships, 4 franchises, Ford, Kia, Toyota, and Mazda. And recently sold one of the 4. I actually had 5 and sold one of the 4 dealerships. But needless to say, I've been very, very successful at this business. I'm proud to say that I'm the largest African-American Toyota dealer in the world. And that's big when you think of Toyota and the size of their franchises and so forth. Number 1 in the Portland region, the first African-American to ever be selected for what Toyota calls their board of governors. And that's the top 60 dealers in the country get selected for that. And proud to say that I'm 32nd in the nation out of 1,242 Toyota dealers. But I could not have done any of that without, I couldn't have done any of that without, excuse me. Well,
Gotta love technology, right?
yes, I am. Mike Joe Stewart is calling me and saying he cannot get in. I know he was in earlier. I saw him.
Okay, I'm sure that Robert is listening, so I'm sure he's going to get right on that and try to resolve that issue so we can get him involved in the conversation as well.
Hey, no problem, Joe. I'm sorry. Okay, no problem. Bye-bye. I'm sorry.
No, no worries. It's a good thing he had the good sense to call you and ask the question.
Yeah.
We'll try to get him back in the conversation. Go ahead and pick up where you left off.
So out of 1,242 dealers across the U.S., I'm number one and 32nd in the nation, I guess is what I should say, which is I was the first African-American dealer to be selected for that group, but also the first dealer to achieve that in the first year of operation. So it's been a good ride, but I attribute everything that I've accomplished, to this to Southern University, because I think they prepared me. But most importantly, the nurturing and the love that I received while I was there, I think gave me the confidence to go out into the world and compete. And with Procter & Gamble, I did very well, with Frito-Lay, and now in the automotive industry. And, one of the things engineering do for you is it gives you the opportunity to do a lot of things. And a lot of companies look for engineers to manage their operations. And that's what I did. I went right into manufacturing management. But I've contributed to Southern University. I'm proud to say my sister's a graduate of there. My late wife was a graduate of Carnegie Mellon. And she and I talked about it, and she decided with me that our money wasn't going to Carnegie Mellon, that it would go to Southern University. She felt that Carnegie Mellon had as much money as they needed, but Southern needed it more. And I'm adamant about everyone giving back to Southern University. I think many of us graduated from Southern University. I worked my way through school. Many of us graduate with scholarships and financial aid and everything that get us through, and we never would have gotten through college if it wasn't for Southern University. And I think we owe them something. We need to give back to them because I chaired the board of Bethune-Cookman University for 5 years, and I can tell you, generating endowments large enough to carry that university when the government start cutting is going to be key to the survival of not only Southern University, but to all of the HBCUs out there. And I'm on the foundation board, and one of my major objectives is to grow the endowment.
Absolutely. Congratulations on your success. That's a great story there. Deidre, if you're still with us, you said you went through Southern University Law Center, and I would like to hear more. I know you mentioned a little bit about that in your introductory remarks, but I remember the Law Center being right there, the building across the street from the library. I'm sure it's probably still in that same location unless they've moved into a new building. Talk about what brought you to SULC and why you chose to go there.
Absolutely. Happy to do so, Mike. So yes, the Law Center is still right across the street from the library. It has grown, though, tremendously. When I arrived in 1997, we still had 3 sections. The chancellor at the time was B.K. Agnihotri.
I remember that name.
Professor John Pierre, who is now Chancellor Pierre, was one of my professors, and I still from time to time call him Professor Pierre because, he has become family, as everyone at the Law Center has after all these years. But what brought me there, I graduated from LSU in Eunice, Louisiana, LSU Baton Rouge campus. And when I had to make a decision as to where I wanted to go to law school, it really, for me, was Southern from the very beginning. And I applied to several different schools, had some good options and some good choices. But one day, after sitting down and having 2 very important conversations, one with then Professor Donald Tate, who was at the Law Center, who is a native of Mamou, Louisiana, which is where I hail from, having some great conversation with him about the legacy of the Southern University Law Center and how it was founded and how it is just such a jewel, right? And then turning and having long conversations with attorney Winston DeQueer Sr., who his firm has long represented Southern University, about my different options, knew then that Southern was the place that I was supposed to be. And so when I got there in 1997, I immediately fell in love with the campus. It is the most beautiful spot on the Mississippi River. And then soon thereafter, fell in love with the institution and the people there. And the Law Center, though small but mighty, has grown tremendously over the years. I'm so proud to be affiliated with it. I'm so proud of the growth that they've experienced, much because of the great education and the attorneys that they put out. The largest majority of judges here in Louisiana come from the Southern University Law Center. And just that stellar education, that support system thereafter is tremendous. And I know that by giving back and expanding the ranks and expanding opportunity to where we can bring in more students. And so we started with 3 classes when I was there, 3 sections, and now they have 4 daytime sections. There's an evening program, there's a part-time program. And so again, the opportunity I think that Southern offers to other people by being innovative and meeting students and meeting professionals where they are to be able to offer those options are just incredible. And they continue to grow our legacy. And so again, I knew right off the top that it was Southern for me, and I'm so glad that I was able to matriculate there through the law school, still very close to lots of my classmates who are now professors there. And the tentacles of the Law Center, just like Southern University, go around the globe. We have alum everywhere in, over 40 countries doing the work that they learned how to do from Southern University. And so that in and of itself is just invaluable. Now, I travel around the country, I travel around the state a great deal in my current capacity. And everywhere I go, people ask me where I went to school and I always say Southern University. And inevitably, I will meet someone who also went to Southern University or have ties to Southern University. And so those roots, I think, speak for themselves. And just really glad that I made that commitment then, and still committed to it now, and committing some more money to it with my son going to school there in the fall. I'm sure for at least the next 4 years, because he has a plan to go to Southern University Law Center as well, already in the works for me. So just the commitment and the support is unwavering to become a Jaguar. The nation is truly alive and active. And it was the right place at the right time. And it's been that way for so many people that I talk to across the country and across the world. And so that commitment and the honor to give back and to be able to give back, because Southern University has afforded many of us lives from very humble beginnings and opportunity to touch and reach more people. Much like Irving, I grew up in a very small community. My parents didn't have the opportunity to go to college, but were immensely proud when I decided to stay in Louisiana, and immensely proud when I went to Southern University, because I believe had my father not joined the Army, he was headed to Southern University and just never really had that opportunity. And we as well, have a legacy within our family of Southern graduates on both sides of my family. And we, bring our children out and show them what it's about and expose them to that. And I think, what Henry was saying is key. It's about exposure, but it's also about support, because we want Southern University to continue, and we want it to be here for generations and generations and generations to come, much like it's been there for generations past. So our giving supports the mission of educating our children. And many of us can say personally, our children. And I think that's key as well, that we continue that legacy, not only for everyone who's part of the nation, but for our own children and our own families as well.
Was you mentioned Chancellor Agnihotri, who I remember from my days there in the mid to late 80s. Was Alvin Roche still I think he was running the law library there.
He was our librarian. He was there my entire time that I was at the Law Center.
Yeah, I was pretty close with him and his wife and their family when I was there on campus. Wonderful people. Madam Chair, are you still with us, or did you go back out to the beach?
No, I'm still here.
I know you said that you didn't graduate from Southern, but you have you definitely have a great attachment and affinity for the university. Talk a little bit about the influence, what really drew you into wanting to help Southern University in the way that you do.
Well, when I was in Louisiana, as I said, I was a senior vice president for the Blue Cross plan, and then I was the CEO for the United Healthcare Community Plan. And particularly at Blue Cross, I had about 1,500 staff members. About 60% of my staff had gone to Southern University. When we would have our annual meeting, we have often invited the Southern University band. When it was time to talk about schools and colors, Southern University always figured prominently. I had so many young people who were extremely capable, very talented, and all of whom, like as I said, the vast majority of whom came from Southern University. So it was, natural, easy for me to get involved. And my basic perspective is Southern University deserved the support of the organizations at which I was employed, and I influenced them to contribute consistently to Southern. And I firmly believe that we as African Americans need to stand up for Black children. And since I was in Louisiana, I was involved with Southern University. Like Deidre, I went to a white undergraduate school, and they had plenty of money. So they did not need my money. But Southern University and the children at Southern definitely did. And as you could see there, I had a wonderful experience of mentoring a young man who, went on from Southern to Texas Instruments and the University of Michigan, on to Deloitte Consulting San Francisco office doing mergers and acquisitions in the technology space. I've had so many wonderful experiences with Southern University graduates that I cannot, it was almost imperative for me to support the mission of the university.
We so greatly appreciate it. Want to let everybody know that we are still working through some technical difficulties here and trying to get Mr. Joseph Stewart online with us. He, of course, is class of 1965. He's a retired senior vice president with the Kellogg Company, which is based up here in Michigan, where I am in the Battle Creek vicinity there. And he is a trustee on the W.K. Kellogg Foundation. Again, we're working through some technical problems with him, and we hope to get him involved in our conversation here very shortly. Want to also mention to our audience that this is not just about money. We're talking to some folks here who have been fortunate enough to enjoy the successes that they have and have been able to contribute in ways that many of you may feel is just way out of your league. But this effort, the $1 Million March for Southern University, is about more than just the dollars and cents. It's also about service and volunteering, putting forth, giving your time to help build upon the successes that our great institution has enjoyed, and we would like to see continue to enjoy. Right now, we've got more than 300 MDM captains who are trained and engaged for this year's kickoff. And the goal is to have 500 fundraisers representing all of the campuses. And again, when we talk about the Southern University system, the only such higher education system for an HBCU in this country. Southern University Baton Rouge, of course, our main campus, Southern University New Orleans, Southern University Shreveport, Southern University Law Center, the Southern University Agricultural Research and Extension Center, and we also include Southern Laboratory School in the Southern University Lab School in there as well. We want to get folks engaged in this effort across the system. And again, philanthropy, as I was reading in some of the materials that are out there, philanthropy equals impact. That's quite a mathematical equation that has doesn't have to do entirely with numbers. A lot of that has to do with effort. And so we encourage you to get involved at whatever level you can. And remember that if you are able to contribute money, it doesn't have to be some astronomical a figure. Every dollar counts. If you are, say, a recent graduate and you want to start giving back right away, if you send $10, it will be appreciated and it will add up. Get your friends to do the same, your classmates to do the same. Whatever level of contribution that you can make to this effort, we encourage you to do that, and we invite you to do that as well. I want to go back to the Henrys and talk a little bit about how you see what we all do in terms of reaching back, how you can most effectively do that, and how you can encourage our audience to most effectively do that if, for say, they are not able to contribute monetarily. How would you like to see them reach back and help the students, the faculty, our various campuses along with this effort?
My feeling is that one of the things that we're doing now is with the School of Business. I work a lot with the international program, and I'm working with a sponsorship in Accra, Ghana, and another sponsorship on some programs in some favelas in Brazil. And a lot of times I think that if we go back, there are more, and I like those Accra. When you go back to the homeland, it's very important. Outside of Africa, it's more Brazil, more Blacks in Brazil than anywhere else. So I think a lot of times, when you're going back and you're just talking to people that are at the bottom, it means a lot. And I think that my feeling is that if you graduate from Southern, you have to find something to do to give back to Southern. You have to, and most of us, if you go out and have a good dinner on a weekend, it could cost you $200 with your family. So we all make sacrifices, but I think that the sacrifice, we have to do something to really bring up our own people. Like you said, or like Irvin said, with the cutbacks, those are going to be real, and it's going to be more. But if you, with the scholarship program at Southern, what you don't realize is that $2,000 or $3,000 might make the difference between that person being able to finish school or not. And to most of us, if you graduated from Southern, you have to find a way to go back to your roots, because nobody else is going to do it for it. We've been very, very successful, and I feel an obligation to give back. Now, the experience that I had is different from the experience that my son had, because I didn't want him to go through the things that we had to do to graduate from Southern, or just to make it. I remember coming from Baton Rouge and Woodville and being stopped and harassed and being threatened, and those things stick in your mind. I don't want my son to have to go through that. I remember on a seismograph crew in Monroe, Louisiana, we're laying cable and told we'd never got out of those woods. It's a lot of things that are imprinted in your soul, and those are the things that I think about. And I think that, like you said, people can't make the same financial contributions that maybe I could make, or Irvin could make, or something like that. But you could do something. And it goes a long way. I know that Robert was talking about, setting up a program where somebody could give $20 a pay period, or $200. That means someone graduating from Southern. So
there are different dynamics and parameters that you can do to help Southern. But I think everybody, if you graduate from Southern, have to give back.
Find a way. Absolutely. The university system also plans to launch an extensive capital campaign next spring. The goal is to raise $850 million for that, and the campaign will span 5 years. Multiple major construction projects are included in this plan: the new student union, honors dorms, a new STEM building, nursing and allied health building, expanding several, I should say the nursing and allied health building expansion. And then there are several infrastructure projects that are included in that as well. And the campaign will also secure more than $80 million in new endowment investments that are focused on student success. And that capital campaign is currently in the feasibility phase and has to secure more than $210 million in commitments. And so that is another area in which anyone who is looking to contribute can consider focusing some dollars, no matter how large or small, to help with that capital campaign. So we'd like to see that happen as well. I want to say good evening to Mr. Joseph Stewart. We have
unmute.
Mr. Stewart, unmute yourself there. We want to welcome you to the conversation. So happy that we were able to get connected with you. Again, just by way of introduction, Mr. Stewart is class of 1965. He is retired senior vice president of the Kellogg Company. So if you like Frosted Flakes, he was involved in helping to bring that wonderful cereal to your breakfast table. Currently serving still as a trustee of the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, which does a lot of good work. Co-founder of Stewart Industries as well, and also involved in something that I was just learning about this afternoon. In fact, something to do with Georgetown University and the Jesuits and reparations. And we'll let him talk a little bit about that as well. But Mr. Stewart, good evening. Talk a little bit about your Southern University experience and how it influenced your success.
Well, thank you. Before I say anything, let me apologize for the disruption. I was losing confidence in myself. This thing has flipped me around so many times, trying to get back on the line. So I'm very pleased. I went back several times and I finally found whatever it was. And now I don't know what I found. So all I know is I got on here. So
that's all that matters to you. We got you on and we're so glad for it. So yeah. Go ahead and talk a little bit about your Southern University experience and how it has influenced your success.
Well, I think I can almost say what I might say here is not much different from what any of the people on this line who had the good fortune to attend Southern University and to get the kind of support and treatment and I think pride and dignity, confidence, and all of those things that goes into whatever level of success we're able to achieve once we get out of Southern and compete out there in that bigger world. So my story is the same. I came off of the bayou, 30 miles away from Baton Rouge, on Grove State Bayou in a little town called Maringouin, which is itself connected to the story about the Jesuits. I won't overbear you guys with that, but coming from Southern and that little town, you learn in life that whatever you achieve is dependent so much on all of the people who give you support and give you confidence and give you uplifting along the way. And I bet you most of us can go back to elementary school and talk about our Miss Green and our Miss Pellichet. When it was just a few of us there, we could go into high school and talk about my Mr. Griffin, the principal. You could come to Southern and talk about Dr. Robinson and Dr. Prestige and Dr. All of the good people who were there, who I tell you, for a boy who hadn't been any place other than the country and to go to Southern, it was like If you've never been out of Louisiana, going to New York for the first time. I mean, that's the kind of impact it had, the exposure. And then to be embraced and loved and encouraged like the people at Southern did with me. And I go back to the age of Dr. Felton Clark and that whole people. And I would be remiss, I tell you, and I hope most of you can agree with this, that a person that's no longer with us, that in their strange way was so impactful for us, and that was Donald Wade. I mean, Donald Wade was a legend. And I can't tell you how many lives Donald impacted, including my son, who went to Southern after me. That is my story of Southern. It's a story about support. It's a story about confidence building. It's a story about dignity and all of those things that lead us to be where we are now. And where we are now is at a stage in our lives, along with a lot of other people that I hope is looking at this, when we can give back to Southern. And giving back to Southern isn't about giving back to buildings and all that stuff. It's about giving back to young people, most of whom are like we were, coming to Southern with the need for support, the need for love, the need for confidence. And so that's my story. I mean, it I don't think it's so different, but that's my story.
It's a great story, and you know, I think that our audience can learn so much from you and from our everyone on our panel here this evening. Right now, as we celebrate this kickoff to MDM for 2023, and this, of course, is a 90-day push to hit a mark here. Right now, we are at a level just over $5 million for the campaign. So it is off to a wonderful start. Our goal, of course, is to raise $10 million just in this next 90 days. And so if we can just hit some benchmarks, you know, after the first 30 days, the next 30, and then the final 30, we can get there. We can get beyond that 10 million goal for these next 90 days. But certainly it will take some commitment on all of our part to try to raise this money and to raise this support, the overall support for our beloved university. This campaign, of course, will end on August 31st, at which point we will hopefully have reached or surpassed that goal. I said 5 million. It's actually more than 5.4 million at this point. So we're approaching 5.5 million, you know, at this point right now. And I think it's worth noting that, you know, people are out there who are willing to, people and companies and corporations who are willing to give to Southern University, because just since the pandemic, COVID-19 in 2020, private philanthropic gifts to the Southern Foundation have provided close to $43 million in student scholarships and faculty research grants and program grants, along with campus operational support and capital campus improvements. And so the efforts of the foundation have been wonderful, and folks have responded, and that's certainly a good thing. What did somebody want to add? Irving, was that you want to add something?
Yeah, Mike, a couple of things. I think you asked a question a while ago about how can people give and other ways that they can give. And one of the things that I often encourage folk to do is recruit for Southern University. And in your community, you know, it's those tuitions and the kids, the enrollment and everything else that also helps Southern University succeed. The other thing is, we talked about dollars, and while I contribute as much as I can and will always contribute a lot to Southern University, it's not always how much, and I think everybody needs to give what they can give. But I've thought about it, and you know, I said, we've got over 50,000 graduates out there. If everybody gave $100 a year, that would be $5 million to that institution. And if we could just keep giving, And it's not about how much, but give what you can. And, there are other ways. Those of our alumni that work for institutions, for other corporations and all, there are matching grants there. A lot of times they will will match whatever you're giving to Southern University. They also have their budgets, that they have for contributions and things like that. Try to get into that, find out what they have, ask them to give to Southern University, introduce them to Southern University. There are all kinds of ways that I think we can give and raise it, but I am still pushing to see that endowment grow, because that contributes to scholarships. That's money that keeps giving. And so the more money we can give to the university to create scholarships and do that, the more students we can educate there, and students that we can prepare for a bright future. So I think we need to just keep everybody engaged in any way that they can in trying to assure the success of Southern University.
Absolutely. And I think you raised a good point about the numbers, because in preparing for this tonight, I came to the understanding that of those 50,000 alums that we have out there, only roughly about 10% are regular contributors to what we're talking about here tonight. So if we could grow that number, even if it's just a little bit of growth every year, but if we could grow that number, again, we could find a lot of success in being able to raise that money to help the students who need it the most. So, Madam Chair, you look like you were taking notes and parking some thoughts to share with us. Did you have anything you wanted to add? You're on mute.
Okay. It's really an incredible honor for me to be in the company of the gentlemen that are also on the panel. Mr. Joseph Stewart didn't talk about the work that he has done around reparations at Georgetown University, and it is groundbreaking how he went to the to the Jesuits and reminded them of their mission and of their values, and talked about how Georgetown University sold slaves to save the university. And Mr. Joe Stewart carried that flag and really moved forward and moved Georgetown University to make some pledges to Southern University. And Mr. Irving Matthews talks about 5 dealerships. I am humbled, because the gentlemen here represent among the best that Southern has to offer. And there are so many stories like theirs. I met a group of young people who were from the Association of Black Journalists. Everywhere I have gone, when I mention Southern University and my work with them, people start. I live in the Maryland area at this time, and I've just recently gotten involved with a group of people, many of whom are from Louisiana, and of course, as professionals, are graduates of Southern University. So, I cannot say enough about how I am continually inspired by the work by the work of Southern, and by the commitment that so many have shown and the successes that they have achieved. And I think that Irving Matthews' idea, if we could just get everyone, President Obama raised $1 billion for his presidential campaign, and the average contribution was $7. If those 50,000 graduates of Southern University would take Irving's advice and give $100 a year, that $5 million would make such a difference in the lives of so many. Like, many of you, I went to college on scholarships. I went to college with 2 pair of jeans and 1 skirt back in the late 60s. So I understand what a difference a couple $1,000s will make in tuition, in books. I don't know if you all looked at the price of, well, they're electronic books now, but still the price of the texts that are used, you would be amazed at what a huge difference a few $1,000s will make. And so I want to support everyone and encourage you to remember the young people whose lives you can change by making those contributions. Thank you for giving me a chance to say a few more words.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And you raised some wonderful points there. I want to turn to Courtney Henry here because as we're talking about helping the young people. How do you, as I guess the youngest member of our panel here tonight, what can you advise in terms of engaging our younger generation of graduates to contribute to these efforts? How do we engage the younger generation?
Well, like you said, just start somewhere. If it's $100 a year, I mean, I think we all could do that. But I think Mr. Irvin Matthews hit on head too, is just try to encourage other folks to, go to Southern, these young people in the communities. I've, up here in Minnesota, we've been attached to a HBCU college tour where every year they go to different HBCUs, but they've gone to Southern several times just to make sure that we get other kids exposed to Southern, because like we said, the tuition and the enrollment help. I mean, if Southern doesn't have a healthy enrollment, then this is all for naught. So I'd say just to make sure that we, keep influencing kids in our communities to go to Southern, and also, like you said, just give our time back, because it's not all about, if you're, a younger alumni of Southern University, you might not have the financial means to contribute a lot, but you also have time and you have your talents to contribute to Southern.
Absolutely. It's interesting. You guys are up in Minnesota, and I just did an interview that I'm working on for broadcast next week with Attorney General Keith Ellison. He and I grew up in the same neighborhood together in Detroit. But he was telling me his grandfather, his mother is from Natchitoches, his late mother, and his grandfather went to Southern. So, the connections are wide ranging there.
My wife is from Natchitoches.
Huh?
My wife is from Natchitoches.
I read that. Yes, I did. I read that. And for all the time that I spent in Louisiana, I still can't spell it without looking at it. I understand that Mr. Brown, James Brown, is ready with some comments. Mr. Brown?
That's risky. He's a minister.
He's there in Baton Rouge. The Baton Rouge the Baton Rouge feed is on mute. He might be speaking, but we can't hear him because they're muted.
Okay.
I was told a few minutes ago that we were going to go that one more round of conversation and then start trying to wrap this up. But I want to make sure that we get Pastor Brown's thoughts if he's there. Can we unmute the Baton Rouge feed? We'll on that. I'll wait to hear whether he's ready to go. I'd like to take just to kind of do a little round robin here and let everybody give some closing comments, just whatever's on your mind, on your heart, in terms of encouraging our audience to really take to heart what we've been discussing here this evening and to get involved in the $1 Million March for the Southern University Foundation and for our students who are enrolled there today and who will enroll in the days, months, and years to come. And, we'll start with ladies first. So, Madam Chair, your final comments. Unmute yourself, ma'am.
My apologies. You know, as I've said, it has been my privilege and my pleasure to really to support Southern University and the difference that the students have made, not only in Louisiana, but across the country. I've seen so many young people who have excelled. I have talked to people who work for every major corporation in the world. And I am so proud of the work that they are doing. I will continue to support Southern University. And you know, it's so interesting. I have been asked by some of the people from my alma mater why I'm not contributing. And I proudly say, I am supporting Southern University, a historically Black college who supports children who really need their support. So I have pushed Tufts away, and my support has gone to Southern and will continue to do so. I thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to serve Southern University, and I thank you for enabling me to have this few minutes to speak about my commitment and support of Southern.
We so greatly appreciate you. Mr. Stewart, want to give you an opportunity to go next?
Yeah, let's just say every time I have this kind of opportunity to be in the presence of people like Allison and Irving and the Henrys, both of them, and I'll say to you, Courtney, it's inspiring to see you sitting there by your daddy, to know that you probably going to have a son sitting next to you one day. And I would suspect you probably will want him to in some way touch Southern, because it has touched you and your dad. Having said that, I want to say, you know, just out of this conversation, it seems that we may have stumbled across a jewel of an idea that Irving spoke about and Courtney spoke about, and that's those 50,000 Southern graduates who are out there. And let's just be bold enough not to sound that we are all poor, that if you finish Southern, $100, I would say $500. If you think in terms of the challenge ought to be, instead of 10%, let's say 75%. If we somewhere had a campaign that would go after the graduates and let the graduates determine the small amount of money, that's $50 million instead of $25 million at $1,000. I mean, we need to think through that, because I think there's a tremendous amount of potential. If Obama, how much was Obama's average contribution, Allison?
He said $7.
It was
Jesus,
$7.
I mean, you tell me we can't challenge 50,000 Southern graduates to come up with $1,000 a piece. We just need to think that through. So I was inspired just to be with you guys to hear that, what I would consider jewel of an idea. And I'll just close by someday saying, and this is a Southern University thing, off of the bayou, someday the story of the descendants, all of Maringouin, Louisiana, and people like me. And Mike, I want to talk to you, because the Woolfolk name is a deep name in this Jesuit descendant experience. And I know it's you from Detroit, and I spent part of my year in Battle Creek. So we're going to talk about that, because that name Woolfolk is deeply rooted in the area that I'm from down there. And so I would suspect we might be kin, for that matter.
Oh yeah, my dad.
But someday I'd like to tell you guys about this, because this is, we decided, rather than to go to the courtrooms to fight for repairing the breach, that we had a unique opportunity to take a moral pathway, that if a church and a group of clergymen could enslave our ancestors, then they had a moral obligation to God, whether they felt one to us or not. And so what we've done is built a moral pathway to truth and reconciliation. And the price tag on it that we're heading toward is $1 billion foundation. And the idea is this: we're not asking for individual payments. We asked the Jesuits to make available $1 billion in a nonprofit foundation at $1 billion, $50 million a year at 5%. Can do a lot to help a lot of young people be educated, and a lot to help a lot of elderly and infirm people. So just briefly, that's the concept we're working on. And it's talking about the same thing, the need to reduce the economic disparities between white American and Black American. And we at Southern can have a major impact on that. So thank you for allowing me to be on this call today.
We appreciate you being here. By the way, my dad's people were from Mississippi, from Yazoo County, Mississippi.
No kidding. No kidding. Yeah.
Mr. Matthews.
Yeah, let me kind of inject a couple other things here. And I think too frequently when I've talked to graduates of Southern University, I ask them to forget about the issues that they use as a reason not to give. And so frequently I hear, well, I had to wait in the registration line for so long. My financial aid check might have been late, and those kind of things. Those things happen, but they got their education. They were able to complete it, and I'm sure it's impacted their lives in a very positive way. And why pull the ladder up relative to the other students that needs to go to school, want to go to Southern? Now that they're up there, don't pull the ladder up, leave it down, contribute to help some of these other students get through Southern University also. I think that there's so much that we can do. And most of the times, you know, we will throw money away on all kinds of things and just never, ever think about it. The first thing we'll say is, I don't have it. But give up one of those dinners, give up one of those pair of shoes, give up one of the suits or whatever it is that you're going to buy, and try to pave the way for these other students out there that want to attend school and don't have the means. It's our responsibility to try to help provide the opportunity for those students. I'm here, I'm going to do everything I can. I ask everyone out there to give. Set aside some of those dollars and make sure that you're giving back to this institution so that we can provide opportunities for all these, as many of these young students out there as we can handle. I appreciate being here. I love it. I've been involved with supporting education for a long time. I'm committed to that. And I hope that we can see other people get more committed to assuring the long-term stability and success of Southern University. Thank you for having me.
Amen. Thank you. Mr. Henry and Courtney?
You know, you brought up a couple of good points. You know, one of the things I think we ought to do also is reach outside of Southern. You know, you got up there in Detroit, you got Bill Picard and that group. And you just mentioned Keith Ellison. We're in the Boulay together. I'll see him this weekend. You just told me his mother is from Natchitoches, Louisiana. That's a talking point to say, you know, so I'm sure, I don't know the connection with Southern, but they probably have a connection with Southern. So I think that we have to find a way to enlarge that circle and go outside of Southern also. But I think that I feel an obligation religiously and morally to give back to Southern.
And I'll just quickly say it's an honor to be here tonight. And like I said, I like what Mr. Matthews says. It's just not about the excuses. I mean, I stood in some lines too, but, we made it, and, us giving back is going to make it easier for the ones down there now. So, with 50,000 Jaguars out there, this goal is very achievable. We just have to get after it.
Absolutely. And we will close things out with Pastor Brown, most appropriately. In addition to just sort of giving us some wrap up comments, and maybe you can even close out with some prayer, because we can all use that as well. Go ahead, Mr. Brown.
Okay, I certainly will. Thank you for your patience in working through all the technical difficulties. I just want to say that I'm a sharecropper son. Neither one of my parents were educated. I think my mother may have gone to the second grade, but coming to Southern in 1965, graduating in accounting in 1969, first time I'd ever flown on a plane, flew to New York, interviewed with wife Price Waterhouse. I settled in Houston, Texas. And Joe Stewart, Irvin Matthews, those of us who came out of the 60s, went into corporate America and integrated workforces because of affirmative action. We all had something in common that graduated from Southern, put me right in the midst of graduates from the University of Texas, Texas A&M and Baylor. I was as competent as they were, not intimidated at all. I like what you all have said, and all of you guys, Allison included, you all sound like a bunch of preachers taking up an offering. And that is, and you get it, and that is not an equal gift, because on this panel, we wanted to have our brightest and our best from Southern, but not an equal gift, but an equal sacrifice of is what we wanted. Mr. Wolfhard, before we get off, I have our immediate past president of the Southern University System Foundation Board of Trustees, and that is Mr. Fred Banks. And I want him to step in and just have a word. But I want you all to know he comes bringing an offering, and what Fred and and Alma has presented to us right now in this meeting is a $10,000 check. So I'd like for him, so he has bought some time. Fred, come on.
Amen.
Well, thank you very much. It's hard to get around a Baptist preacher, especially one who eats a lot of chicken, so. But I fully support.
Forgive me for interrupting. Is there a way we can tilt the camera up so we can see your face?
Okay, is that
step down a little bit?
All right. Yeah.
There, that's much better.
That much better.
Okay.
And no, I fully support the university. I support the students and what we are attempting to do to make our students much better in the workplace. And we are out there. We are doing what we have to do. And this is just a little bit of what we feel we can contribute to help make Southern, its students, and all of our people much better. And I'd like to thank James. He's always done a good job with the march, and hopefully we can continue to support him. Thank you so much, and thank all of you for your donations.
All right. And thank you, Fred. Yeah, thank you, Fred, for stepping up and being an example and providing a leadership for the years that you served in that foundation capacity. I'd just like to say finally that congratulations to all the participants today. I want to say of Joe Stewart and Lewis Henry that we argue about this, but I am the poorest guy who ever trod the path of Southern University here at Scotts Bluff. I'm the poorest. I'm the sharecropper son. So I just thank God for Southern and how it prepared me to go out into the marketplace to be a productive citizen and to be able to give back to the university. I gave Southern my children. Southern gave me my wife, and I just thank God for Southern. So I'd like to close with just a short prayer. Father, how we thank you for your loving kindness, the multitudes of your tender mercies, all that Southern is and will become. We thank you for the resources that you have given us, human resources, financial resources, to make the impact of Southern University's great worth felt, not only in Louisiana, the nation, but throughout the uttermost parts of the world. So Lord, we praise you and we thank you so much for making the sky Columbia blue and the sunset gold. We believe, truly believe, that you must be a Jaguar. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. And thank God. God bless you all. Let's go to work.
Amen. And on that note, I want to thank all of you for taking the time to be with us this evening, and more importantly, for taking the time to put forth the effort for Southern University. We need more of us to do what you all are doing right now and have been doing for so many years. Again, thank you all for joining us. To our fellow Jags out there who have been watching, we appreciate you being with us. We hope that some of the stories that you've heard, some of the testimonies, some of the facts and figures have inspired you to get out there and do some work for our beloved institution, Southern University. Not just Baton Rouge, but also New Orleans, Shreveport, the Law Center, the Ag Center, and Southern Lab, all vitally important to the future of this great country that we all call home. Again, thanks for joining us tonight. That's going to do it for us. And we will see you around the bend or on the bluff. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night, everybody. Sky
Good night,
Columbia
James.
Blue.